Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna. I'm a therapist and shamanic healer. And today I want to talk about fasting, open-mindedness, and the value of retreat. I'm just on the other side of a 7-day water fast in Death Valley, California. I'm still unpacking the experience for sure. And although I went into it as open-mindedly as I could, I was still surprised by the experience. Fasting is an ancient practice. Jesus fasted for 40 days in the desert before he began his ministry. I believe Buddha was fasting under the Bodhi tree when he became enlightened. In Islam, the month-long celebration of Ramadan includes daily fasting from sunrise to sunset. And I don't know when they changed it, but when I was growing up, Catholics didn't eat meat on Fridays. I grew up in a predominantly Catholic community, and school lunches were fish on Fridays. Somehow fish fasting doesn't really seem like fasting, but hey. So fasting has made a resurgence in health circles. Even the Institute on Aging now recommends intermittent fasting and calorie restriction as one of the pillars of longevity. So fasting in general is intentionally not eating. Pretty simple. From a biological standpoint, a person is assumed to be fasting once 8 to 12 hours have elapsed since the last meal. There's certain medical and lab tests that need you to be in a fasting state in order to get accurate results. In fact, the word breakfast comes from breaking the fast of overnight not eating. I went into menopause pretty early, around age 44. Menopause is when your menstrual cycle stops. Your body also stops producing the level of hormones that it did. And I have not been overly thrilled with the accelerated aging process. My aching joints, some of my arthritis got worse, my metabolism changed, and I started to get wrinkles. Ew. That with the fact that I'm a late bloomer and I'm actually starting my career in my mid-50s, I got a lot of stuff I got to do. I want to live for a while. So I came on intermittent fasting, actually through the Institute on Aging and some stuff I saw on YouTube. And I'll put some links to that information in the show notes if you want more on that. So intermittent fasting can be done a couple different ways. The two ways I've experimented with it are what's called 2-5 eating, which is you have a 7-day week. 5 days a week you eat whatever you want, your normal eating, and then 2 days a week you calorie restrict. As a woman, under 500 calories. That didn't work too good for me. Those 2 calorie restricted days, I found myself to be freezing cold most of the time, super low energy, and not very productive. So then I began to play with another kind of intermittent fasting, which is a daily method called 16-8 eating. So there's 24 hours in a day, and you pick an 8-hour window where you eat food during that 8 hours, and the other 16 hours you don't take in any calories. Now, I tend to cheat on that because I do like tea with milk. I've been playing around with putting MCT oil, which is a coconut oil that comes out of the keto craze. I'm not a super purist, and the 16-8 eating really seems to work. So one of my best buddies is a health and fitness buff and likes to do kind of extreme stuff. We have a lot of fun together, and he's been wanting to do a 7-day water fast for forever. Now, I suffered with an eating disorder for many, many years, bulimia and compulsive overeating, and on the edge of anorexia at different times, all over the place with food and dysmorphia about my body. Generally, at this stage, I avoid super extreme things because they can tend to trigger me. So it felt kind of scary to me to think about a 7-day water fast. I've never gone more than 24 hours without food. But over time, I kept coming across different spiritual teachers that I follow, different information about these profound healing benefits of a prolonged water fast. Now, I'm not particularly hip on cleansing. I've never actually done any of that, although I have a lot of friends who have. They drink cleansing teas and do colonics, where they stick a bunch of stuff up your butt from the other end. That does not appeal to me at all. But as I've been looking into really how to optimize my health, I exercise a lot, I lift weights, I ride bike, I walk, I eat well. I have my own funky sleeping schedule that works really well for me. But I've been really working to reduce inflammation, because inflammation is kind of the cause of many, many health problems. I was also a cleaning lady for a really long time. I had a house cleaning service. So I know the value of cleaning things, tidying up. And one of the things that happens in fasting is autophagy. And autophagy is when your body has used up its stores of glucose for energy and it starts to search in your body to tidy things up. Cells that aren't functioning properly. There's this thing I learned about called senescent cells, which are cells that are kind of like little zombie cells that they aren't functioning well. They're kind of like your neighbor's husband who doesn't work and just stays home all day, eating food and watching TV. And you're like, why is he there? So the cells that are dysfunctional get cleaned out in autophagy. And there's a lot of health benefits to that. I'll try anything once. Well, not anything. I have no interest in bungee jumping off a bridge or jumping out of a plane. The jumping thing doesn't work for me. But there's a lot of things that I'll try once. So over time, I became open-minded to doing a 7-day water fast. And as the new year began to approach, I realized I hadn't done a retreat in a really long time. And there's a lot of things converging right now, completing my audiobook and kind of getting ready to move to this next level in my life. There's been a lot of change over the last few years and the dust has kind of settled. And my buddy and I both love to go to the desert. And so there was kind of this perfect configuration of New Year coming and my own open-mindedness to do this fast. And so we worked it out and took a week and drove down to Death Valley and only drank water for 7 days. Now, even within a 7-day water fast, there's a lot of different ways to do it. We have a friend who recently did a 21-day water fast at this place, True North in Santa Rosa, California, very close to here. And they do supervised water fasting. He went as an intensive weight loss thing. Their program is they do juice fasting for a couple days first, and then they move you into only distilled water, and then they back you out of the fast on the other end with juice and then into food. He lost like 50 pounds. In fact, it was probably the final straw that got me interested and open to doing it. And I started to look into going to True North myself. And my buddy was like, bah, don't pay them. We can go to the desert and starve for free. Okay. So in my own research, again, there's tons of different ways to fast. There was a lot of suggestions to make sure that you take in enough sodium, magnesium, potassium, and other electrolytes so that the minerals don't leach from your bones. Osteoporosis runs in my family, so we did water with salt and electrolytes. I tracked our daily experience in a funny little video. It's about 10 minutes long. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes as well. So I like to look at things holistically, which is all my different aspects: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational. Physically, the 7-day water fast did not agree with me at all. I was never really hungry, but I'm back 4 days and I still have a slight headache. On day 6, I got this ridiculous jaw and throat pain, which is a little mysterious, but not completely unusual because I saw other people on the internet had the same experience. And it's possibly from my jaw muscles atrophying for not chewing for 7 days. I personally mostly felt weak and just generally physically out of balance. The first 3 days were pretty easy. The last 4 days were pretty hard. Day 5 was actually pretty good. I'll try anything once. I'm not going to do a 7-day water fast again. And although it was a challenge for my friend, he basically rocked it. Felt great coming out of it. 4 days out, I'm still recovering. And again, although I went really open-minded, I have to say I'm a little disappointed that I still have arthritis in my left knee. I was a little hoping for a miracle. My wrinkles didn't go away. Oh well. So mentally, the retreat part of it was awesome. And to not have to cook or manage food just allowed this real, restful, peaceful, open space that was really reflected in the physical surroundings of the desert. I love being outside. It was a beautiful moon. So I was up a lot in the night, building fires and just sitting outside, not really meditating, just being, clearing and opening. So mentally, I feel really rejuvenated. Emotionally has been very interesting. It can be quite powerful to clear our life of distractions and see what comes up. And I don't know if I'm surprised or not surprised, but some really old dysmorphia came up. Dysmorphia is when you have an unclear perception of yourself. Of course, who has a clear perception of themselves, really? But it really brought up some old insecurities and this kind of funky relationship with my body disappointing me, and some surprising anger about the aging process and the impermanence of my body and my powerlessness over that. I really hate being powerless. But there's a tremendous amount of personal growth in knowing where I have power and knowing where I don't. And I think that's probably the takeaway that I'm continuing to unpack, is that dynamic. Where do I have power and where do I not? And how do I surrender where I am truly powerless? And how do I apply myself most effectively where I do have power? From my perspective, particularly emotional experiences, when they arise, they're information about things that may be outside of our conscious awareness. One could see feelings as our body's way of serving up our unconscious thoughts and beliefs. What came up for me this week is certainly really old stuff that wants to be cleared away. So although autophagy, I don't know how well it happened inside my cellular system, there's certainly an emotional autophagy happening, an emotional clearing process of what do I want to keep and what do I want to let go of? What are some old thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, or perceptions that are like the bad husband hanging out, taking up space? On the other side of that, emotionally, I feel quite proud of myself because it feels like an achievement to do difficult things. It's good to challenge ourselves, to push our edges. So I feel more confidence in my ability to have self-discipline and follow through on a difficult intention. That feels good. Spiritually, it feels a little tumultuous. I got to spend this time connecting with the earth and the moon, with the campfire, and with water. 4 very powerful elements. But it really stirred up my deeper relationship with my own humanity, having a physical body, and the impermanence of all things. Still unpacking that one too. In most of my research about fasting, everybody talked about mental clarity. That was not my experience. I still feel a little foggy. Maybe I got a lot of extra senescent cells in my brain that didn't get chewed up by the autophagy. I don't know. Everybody has a different experience. Socially, relationally, it was awesome to do the 7-day water fast with someone else. And coming back, I really craved connection with my community and particularly with my kids. So it renewed my appreciation for the loving relationships in my life. So some of the other benefits is somebody gave me a juicer, and I've been juicing vegetables since we got back, which is amazing and so yummy. So that's a new gift that came out of this. I'm really interested in continuing to play with different ways of eating. I'm probably going to try keto. I haven't eaten meat yet, so I'm playing around with that. And although I feel a little bit like a washcloth that just got wrung out, I also do feel really grounded and ready to move into this next place from this pretty intense retreat. So I'm not a medical person. I'm not suggesting anybody do this. Just sharing my experience and the many values of doing a difficult thing. And although I'll probably never do a 7-day water fast in that way again, I'm really grateful for the experience, and I feel like it was beneficial for me. Sometimes we only need to do something once. And when we're open-minded, we need never be disappointed. If you're interested in finding out more about how spiritual psychology might benefit you in your life, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. Happy to give you more information about my 3-month mentorship program. And you can check out my book and workbook, Allies and Demons, Working with Spirit for Power and Healing, on Amazon. Coming soon on Audible. Grateful appreciation for my supporters on Patreon. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValle McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.